Welcome to Trench Diaries. This is Iron Coffins, part 23. April the 24th, 1943. U-230 was in the semi-darkness of the concrete bunker. The lines had been cast off the bollards. The crew had assembled on the aft deck facing the pier where the farewell guests stood. Our men had small bouquets attached to their caps or in the buttonholes of their submarine blouses. The oily harbour water was churned up by the slowly reversing screws. U-230 silently detached from the concrete wall and, stern first, emerged from the darkness of the protective bunker into dazzling sunlight. A triple hurrah followed from the catacomb. At the same time, another U-boat, U-456, separated from the opposite pier and followed in our wake. U-230 and U-456 had the same orders, the same mission. I saw Förster, my companion on many visits to Madame, standing on the bridge. We waved to each other with gloved hands. Then our boat quickly increased the distance from land and friends. Already in the Bay of Brest, everything on U-230 was in a state of war: actions, spoken word, and thoughts. It was as if we had never been ashore, never on leave, as if there had never been a cheerful moment in the casino bar, never a night in a woman's arms. U-230 rushed through the sluggish water at 17 knots. The sky was filled with dark clouds, and it was cool and windless. U-456 followed on a parallel course only 500 meters to starboard aft. In the east, the breakwater disappeared beyond the horizon. Ahead, the grey of the sky mixed with the green of the sea. We hammered westward, constantly on the lookout for planes and listening with trained ears to every chirping sound from our radar warning device. We'd been equipped with a new electronic instrument, an improved version of the Biscay Cross. The cumbersome cross, which we had to hand down from the bridge into the tower with much effort during diving alarms, had been replaced by a small antenna welded to the upper edge of the tower casing. Faint signals accompanied us since leaving Brest. When their strength suddenly increased, U-230 disappeared from the surface with a quick diving maneuver. U-456 followed only seconds later. On this afternoon we lost contact with our companion. We marched separately, but on the same course into the common operating area, into the vastness of the North Atlantic. As night fell, we surfaced to try our luck with speed, battery charge and air. The boat was quickly ventilated, both diesel engines were run at full throttle, and the battery charging was activated. The infinity of the midnight blue sky and the black expanse of the sea, merging in the distance, gave us the feeling of traveling through empty space. Alone between sky and sea, trailing a long bright wake, our sleek boat moved westward, a clear target for any enemy bomber pilot. As the diesels hammered in a steady rhythm, I counted the minutes we were allowed on the surface. 17 minutes passed, 18 minutes, then a loud sonar contact. We dived immediately. Shortly after U-230 surfaced the following night, the English responded with fierce attacks. By operating their radar sparingly, they surprised us with sudden approaches. Hour after hour, we repeated the game, diving quickly before waiting, thinking the enemy had lost his prey, resurfacing after 20 minutes, churning with clattering diesel engines a few miles west, only to dive again minutes later under the roar of bombs reaching for us. Night after night, we escaped the persistent pursuit, evading the exploding depth charges. On the fifth night, the attacks diminished, and on the sixth night, we were again able to breathe normally. U-230 had broken through the blockade and plowed through a phosphorescent sea further west. That night, we received the order along with 10 other boats forming Group Drossel to head to square BE-85 and take up a position in an outpost patrol. Extreme caution and invisibility were prerequisites if we were to shadow the convoy. The boats were instructed to hover submerged in place. Surfacing was allowed only briefly and for air renewal. The secret of the outpost patrol had to be preserved at all costs. Remaining unseen, this was the key to success. The nights became our days, and the days became our nights. The creeping hours we spent enclosed in our tube were lit by the dim light of a few weak emergency lamps to conserve power. The nights on the bridge were as black as tar. We navigated with long search legs in the square, ears tuned to the sonar, eyes alternately focused on the ink-black sea and into the shadow-blue air, always ready to dodge the bombs falling from the sky with alarming regularity and precision. And during the day, when the sun shone for all other living beings, we glided at a depth of 40 meters, listening to the distant, familiar sounds of propellers, attentively monitoring the Aztec pulses and the detonations of water and aerial bombs. But as much as we listened and strained our eyes, neither we nor any of the other boats spotted the convoy. It was as if it didn't exist. In the evening, we received the following approach order. Group Drossel immediately shift 60 nautical miles to the west. Enemy convoy moving north, detected by own air force. With the onset of darkness, 11 boats hammered westward at full speed. 11 phosphorescent white foam streaks shot into the dark expanse of the Atlantic, reaching for the enemy moving north under the cover of night. On May the 1st, we reached our new position, an area where no enemy aircraft had been seen. The sonar contacts had diminished, and we dared to surface during the day again to search under the sun. After the eternal game of hide-and-seek, after days and nights under the pressure of the thought that we could be attacked at any moment by well-aimed bomb salvos, I regarded the sun as the only guarantor of our survival. Its brightness allowed us to see high and far. With the help of our eyes and the METOX radar warning receiver, I hoped we would spot the black bees from a safe distance and guarantee our timely retreat into the depths. Our new operating area was far south of the stormy northern regions of the Atlantic, where we had fought during the winter months. I expected more favorable weather and shooting conditions, as well as faster convoy tracking. The tension that had reached unbearable levels during our march through the Bay of Biscay suddenly disappeared. May the 2nd. The weather was clear. The sea was calm and shimmered in all rainbow colors. At 2:08 p.m., Riedel spotted a fast-moving target beyond the southern horizon, a lone ship. We immediately chased it on a new course to the west, aiming to intercept the extended coastline of the target before dusk. 3 hours of intense pursuit drove the hunting fever to a new peak. We raced the vessel at the edge of visibility, maintained contact with mast tops and funnel cap, set ourselves on the course of the target, dived, and laid in ambush. An hour later, our hope to fire the first torpedo on this journey literally went up in smoke from the steamer. Siegmann recognized it as a Swedish freighter sailing on a neutral route. The vessel had painted its national colors on the side and used the Philadelphia route, a shipping lane that our leadership had guaranteed as a safe passage for neutral ships. After allowing the Swede to pass our tubes, we surfaced. Soon after, we intercepted a radio message from one of our boats. Convoy in AJ-37, course northeast, torpedo 2, total 11,000 tons, maintaining contact, U-192. Square AJ-37 was located between Newfoundland and Greenland, way too far away for us to reach. We had to leave the destruction of this convoy to the wolves operating in the Northern Sea area. Shortly after nightfall, we returned to our starting position and immediately went on the lookout for the reported formation. The excitement on board increased with each passing hour. However, the night passed without any of the designated boats reporting contact with the enemy. Our diesels worked slowly in slow speed, and the ventilation fans sang their old whining song. May the 3rd, 10:30 a.m. New radio message from High Command. Group Drossel, operate immediately on southbound convoy in BD-91, speed 9 knots. This time it was our turn again. We had to get the targets in front of our torpedoes. Regardless of the danger of being sighted under the radiant sun, the pack of grey wolves headed for the newly reported convoy. Besides U-230, another 10 U-boats rushed toward a new convoy battle. The sea was choppy and the short waves showed their white teeth here and there. Throughout the morning, we hunted toward the convoy expecting enemy contact at any minute. The tension grew and, with it, our appetite. Those of us on the bridge behind the tower casing were chewing on their salami sandwiches and washed down the bites with strong hot coffee. At the onset of dusk, surprise! U-89 reported that it had come across an unreported convoy with landing craft. Course was south with a strong defense. We were more than surprised. Landing craft in the Atlantic? Our fighting spirit rose immediately. These boats should never be used against our infantry. They had to be swept from the surface the following night. 8:10 p.m. U-230 surfaced for a sounding and visual sweep. Faint noise band was detected in the northeast. 9 p.m. Surfaced again. Somewhere in the dark north, the convoy rocked, awaiting a concentrating attack. A nocturnal surface assault promised a revival of the old Wolfpack tactics featuring pursuit, sinkings, and celebratory victories. The night was moonless and pitch black. Sea state was 3 to 4. The wind was coming from the west. Occasional showers drenched us on the bridge. 10:30 p.m. We ignored the weak and brief sonar contacts. They often disappeared for long minutes. Those must be the escort vehicles of the convoy scouring the surface for us. 10:50 p.m. Sonar contacts increased in strength and number. The METOX radar warning receiver made us nervous, and messages from below disrupted my firing orders. Siegmann ordered the device to be turned off. We were already long detected by the destroyers, but the dangers of interception was no greater than in any previous convoy battle. According to Prager's calculations, we should have had contact with the enemy by now. With murmuring diesels, we hunted diagonally into the long rolling swells, listening, sniffing. We hoped to smell the smoke of the convoy before seeing the shadows. 11:50 p.m. Borchardt spotted the first shadows. Corvette bow right, distance 3,000 meters. The corvette showed its broadside, but disappeared within seconds in the nightly mist. Suddenly, Rocho's voice echoed. Destroyer, 2,000 meters. Angle on bow, 0. Both diesels, flank speed ahead. Chief, fire up the boilers. That was Siegmann's order to Friedrich to extract the last bit of power from the diesels. There was no talk of diving into the depths. We'd been in similarly perilous situations before. Another shadow shot out of the darkness. It was another corvette, and it slowly cut between our boat and the pursuing destroyer. Siegmann recognized his chance, turned his boat to port, and broke out with nearly 20 knots north, while the two pursuers engaged in wild maneuvers to avoid a collision. May the 4th, 12:25 a.m. Shortwave signal from U-89. It said, 3 individual shots, all missed. I've been driven off, strong escort. We prepared for a new clash with the defensive screen. The sea state had increased in the meantime, and the darkness was absolute. Siegmann returned his boat to the old course, reduced speed to full speed ahead, and chased ahead of the sea towards the calculated location of the convoy. Our operation steadily shifted toward the Spanish coast. We realized that the convoy was destined for Gibraltar. As we approached the coast, we anticipated the onset of enemy air activity and the blessing from above once again. 2:17 a.m. Radio message from U-456. Contact with convoy in BF-97, course south, speed 10, attacking now. Of the 11 boats that were assigned to the initially reported convoy, only 9 heard this final radio signal. U-439 and U-659 had collided and sunk in the darkness of the moonless night in the heat of the pursuit. Siegmann immediately adjusted his course, and U-230 closed the distance to the second convoy with landing craft at an approach speed of 24 nautical miles. I had the torpedoes watered, checked the fire control system, and tried to pierce the vastness of the night blue with my night binoculars. 4:45 a.m. 2 hours before sunrise. A new shadow, low-lying and menacing, cut into our stern sector. We raced away at full speed heading north and suddenly ran into the convoy, shadows right ahead, 3, then 4, then 10. I spun around and put the targets into my crosshairs. But I didn't get any further. A corvette shot out from behind a freighter directly towards us. U-230 turned away and plowed into a gigantic wave, our only evasive course. A new chase, a new pursuit. The destroyer behind then tried to ram us. As we did once before this night, we repeated our breakout maneuver and shook off the opponent after an hour. Siegmann swung the boat into a new firing position, but as a grey shimmer approached over the eastern horizon and a new day separated the sea from the clouds, we realized that we were alone. In the early morning hours, the operation took a sharp turn. Our nighttime attacks had provoked the British, and as expected, they threw everything that could fly into the battle, from single-engine planes to the most advanced long-range bombers. A mass aerial pursuit began. 8:25 a.m. I saw a 4-engine plane emerge from a cloud bank. Diving alarm. The boat immediately angled and dove. In these moments of complete blindness, uncertainty, great danger, and a rapid descent into the depths, 4 harsh detonations reminded us that in the heat of the battle we had forgotten to reactivate the METOX radar warning receiver. We waited until the plane had flown away, surfaced after 40 minutes, pursued the lost herd, fixed our eyes on the sky and the horizon. 9:23 am. Alarm for a liberator. The dive tube obediently followed the sharp angles of the rudder, and 4 depth charges exploded on the port side. 9:45 am. Surfaced again, and the air was clear. 10:20 am. Liberator. Diving alarm, 4 depth charges, no damage. 10:50 am. Surfaced again. In the late afternoon, almost fainting from exhaustion, we still had no contact with the convoy. The participating boats also reported no sightings. The enemy seemed to steam unhindered towards its destination behind the shield of its air reconnaissance. As night fell over the eastern Atlantic, we entered the second day without sleep. We stood at battle stations for nearly 24 hours hoping to finally encounter the enemy under the cover of darkness. Torpedoes ready to fire, U-230 conducted massive search patterns, first to the north, then to the east, and after midnight to the south. But no convoy appeared. May the 5th. At dawn, the sea was empty and as solemn as on a peaceful May day. The convoy had indeed forced its way out of our clutches. In the morning hours, we were instructed by command to form a new picket line in the same area with the rest of the Drossel group to intercept 2 reported northbound convoys. It was an unpleasant realization. The Atlantic swarmed with enemy convoys that all too often managed to break through in time and in inexplicable ways. A new sortie, a new hunt. With roaring engines, all senses focused on the enemy, we surged into our assigned quadrant. The weather was excellent and the sky almost cloudless. Sea state was 2 to 3. A light breeze ruffled the surface, and then finally, at 2:02 p.m., the first enemy report came in. U-456 reported, "Have sighted cruiser and 2 destroyers in CF-39. That was the signal, the opening to a new pursuit. We changed our course and went full speed ahead. The boat swayed gently in the long swell, and the visibility was clear and extensive. The day was unusually calm, and the silence seemed deceptive, but not for us. We had learned to anticipate danger like an old bear who had survived many hunting seasons. We had learned that 1 second of carelessness could cost us our lives, and that danger and the enemy lurked from the air everywhere. A new radio signal, short and concise, was handed to us by Riedel through the tower hatch onto the bridge. Being pursued by destroyer, AJ62U638. This incident occurred at the same minute as the Greenland convoy that had been sighted by U-192 the previous day. Stoically, Siegmann acknowledged the message. It was the boat's final report, and we never heard from them again. Another patrol, another after-action report. As you can see, the technological race when it comes to radar is in full swing. The new radar warning receiver is working pretty well, but the Allies are responding in kind by only using their radars in short intervals. As some of you have pointed out, the original METOX device was thought by the Germans to produce pretty substantial emissions itself, which in turn would make the boat trackable. While it is true that receivers of the kind used in this way do produce some faint emissions, this rumor was actually started by a British prisoner of war who during interrogation just made this claim offhand, and German High Command believed it and immediately ordered the U-boats to stop using it. The new antenna was introduced in March of 1943 and was finally able to receive the new radar, but it was actually too sensitive, so it gave many false readings which forced the boats to dive unnecessarily. But it's better to dive without reason than to being bombed into oblivion, I guess. Then there's U-456, the boat which has one of Herbert's friends aboard. U-456 would sink just a few days after this part of Herbert's story, it being the first German U-boat in World War II to be sunk by an American airdropped acoustic homing torpedo, the so-called Fido. There were no survivors. U-456 is known to have sunk the British light cruiser HMS Edinburgh while it was carrying gold bars weighing 5.5 tons from Russia to the UK to pay for Lend-Lease war material. Edinburgh sank with all the gold, which was only recovered between 1981 and 1986. So around 40 years after the fact. 5 of the gold bars aboard are still missing. Thank you for watching and listening. If you like this episode and this series, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye. Cheers.